on the phone lines, we have Janet Robin, LA female guitarist extraordinaire. Janet, are you there with us?
Wow, that's quite an introduction. That's a lot of adjectives before my name.
No kidding, right? Janet, I had the pleasure of working with you out in LA, and you're one of my favorite female lead guitar players. I mean, you're just amazing, really are.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to have you calling in on the show today because you always have something going on.
I try to keep busy. That is true.
Yeah, you're like me. You're a Virgo. I remember. We like.
Oh,
to
you
stay,
too. That's right.
Yeah, we like to stay busy. Remember, our birthdays are very close.
It's true. You are correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
So,
yeah, we're a little weird like that.
Yeah, we're a little, Virgos tend to be a little strange sometimes,
Yeah.
you know. Hey, I do want to educate our listeners on what you've done in your past, and then we'll talk about what you're doing currently. But you are a female lead guitar player, but you also do a lot of other cool stuff. But you studied under Randy Rhoads, the famous lead guitar player. Yeah, and tell us a little bit about that, just so people, because we are a rock station, so we spin some of his stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, well, if people aren't familiar with his name, he was actually first the guitar player in Quiet Riot, but then he got snatched out of that band by Mr. Ozzy Osbourne and became Ozzy's guitar player and wrote a lot of his hits, for example, Crazy Train.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he was in Ozzy's band for a couple of years, and there was a tragic private plane accident, and he perished in that accident at a very young age. But his influence on the guitar playing world was massive and still is.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm grateful for my tutelage from him. I was one of the only female students he had at the time. We're talking, late 1970s. I'm old, I think I started with him in 1977 until they got the gig in 81 with Ozzy. So it was a good portion of my young life, age 9 until about age 14, 15.
Wow.
And
that always blew my mind because when I was growing up, I actually had that poster in one of my aunt's bedrooms.
That
really? I
I
stayed at a lot. Yeah, it was the one where Ozzy's holding him up with his guitar that's so famous.
Yeah,
I had
tribute.
that, and I used to look at the tribute, right? And I used to just stare at it all the time and be like, rock and roll, man, because I was a rocker, from a kid. And I loved Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath and everything in between. And his playing was just immaculate and such a loss to the music world, man. Just
huge. Yeah, and such a great person too. I mean, he really, honestly, he helped form my self-esteem. I have to be honest with you. I was a young girl. I had 2 older brothers who, used to slap me around. And I just was looking for something to feel good about, and once I found the guitar, I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. I like this. And he just was so encouraging to me. He never treated me anything different, from a male student, for example, or any of his older students. I was also his youngest student. So, he just was like, you got to practice and you got to do this and that. And he was just so encouraging to me.
Yeah.
And it literally helped form my self-esteem growing up as a young girl in rock and roll.
That's so amazing, Janet. And I can totally tell that you studied under him because you just got that 70s, 80s lead player attitude and skill.
I appreciate that. Definitely when you hear some of my solos and maybe some of my riffs and some of my own songs, you can hear his influence. I will never attest to be, the player that Randy was, but he absolutely influenced my playing. And, the way he would approach things anyway was always, I don't want you to sound like me. I'm going to show you the skills you need to know, and then you're going to make your own style,
Yeah.
And that's what he always wanted out of all of his students. And he was very dedicated to teaching as well. The last time I saw him was in between Ozzy tours. He came home. He had I don't know, a few months off. I saw him one last time because he taught his students during his time off.
Wow.
And yeah, and that was the last time I saw him. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
And you actually got to play his funeral, didn't you?
I did. Well, I played at, actually didn't play at his funeral. I was in school. My mom wouldn't let me go. It was, you know, complicated. Ended up playing actually at his mother's funeral.
Okay.
Who was very influential in his life as well, and she kept kind of his spirit alive after he passed away. I became closer to the family. Basically, you know, he taught out of a music school that was literally around the corner from my parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all in the neighborhood, you know, and I just stayed close to them after he passed away. And, you know, later in my life, when I got signed to a label and was in various bands and, you know, continuing my career as a musician, his mother just was so kind to me. And I think she was proud, you know.
Yeah.
I think she felt proud of me, and I would come visit her and just say, look what your son did, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Try to give her some comfort, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So Janet, you also went on to like tour with all kinds of cool people. You have your own bands. Tell us a little bit about that. Didn't you tour with like Dave Stewart at some point?
No, actually, but I would have liked to. That's
cool. No kidding. I don't know where I got that.
You know, in a short capsule, after my studies with Randy and after he passed away, I got in an all-female rock band called Precious Metal.
Oh yes, that's right, Precious Metal. Yeah.
Right, and we had a few record deals on Capitol, Polygram. We toured all over about 6 years, and this is the height of the '80s, so there was really only a few other all-female rock bands. One of them being Vixen, right?
You know, I had the lead, the drummer from Fanny on the other day. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, of course. Bree Howard is a friend of mine.
Okay, so Alice DeBurr was on the show, the drummer, talking about all their experiences, and she was amazing. Talking about smoking hash with Keith, you know, with Keith Moon covered their songs, and she recorded at Apple Studios on Ringo's drums. It was pretty crazy.
So she was the first drummer in Fanny. The second one after her was a woman named Bree Howard.
Right.
So there were two drummers, but yeah, I'm friends with all the girls in Fanny.
That's cool. Go ahead about the Precious.
They were first. You know, they were the first one because they were in the '70s.
Yeah.
So they were way before the Runaways as well.
Yeah. And she said she actually helped form and worked the Go-Go's shows and stuff like that to get them off the ground.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the history of female bands, you can literally count them on your fingers, which is another interview. But anyway,
exactly.
But yeah, so quickly, I just, you know, I had my experience with Precious Metal. After that, I became basically a hired touring musician, and I was lucky enough to audition for Lindsey Buckingham. He's the guitar player from Fleetwood Mac.
Right.
And he was doing a solo project. He'd never toured solo. He put his first band together, and he had a lot of guitar players in the band. It was like a guitar army. And that was, yet again, another mentor for me and another education. I liken my time in Lindsey Buckingham's band as like getting my graduate degree, kind of like that, or maybe my PhD. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I would think that was probably a pretty good idea. I mean, he's one of the best.
Yeah, he's a very underrated guitar player in the world. You know, he doesn't get enough recognition as an actual player, but of course he's an amazing singer, amazing songwriter, producer, and a great entertainer. And I just learned just so much from him. And again, he was also encouraging, and he became a little bit more of a mentor to me. I decided to break out on my own, and he encouraged that. He would listen to my demos. He would critique my songwriting. I mean, that's pretty good, you know. So
yeah,
I felt honored, you know, that he took a interest in that. And I continue to do a few more side things, but I basically started my own solo project, singing, songwriting, touring on my own, acoustic. I took the road of Ani DeFranco. I kind of like was influenced by her. Like, get out, book your own shit, get out there. Oh, can I say that on the
Yeah, of course you can. And we
on
have
on the air?
you'll love
Yeah.
this, Janet, because we bypass FCC regulations here because we're
I
streaming
love
live.
it.
Yeah, but listen to
Woo!
this. We have a cuss jar here. I'm going to put some money in there for you. And then at the end of every month, we donate it off to charity. So we cuss for a cause.
Oh, excellent.
Excellent. So I'll donate
fuck
you.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'll throw you a couple bucks up in there.
Well, well, yeah. So anyway, so Ani DeFranco, you know, is just amazing, and I just
Right.
really was inspired by her getting out there and doing it on your own. You didn't need a label, you didn't need an agency, you know. So I did that, and you know, started racking up some fans and really getting a feel for what it was like to be on my own and do my own stuff, play my own music, and connect to audiences that way. And I've been doing that ever since. And in between, you know, I've gotten other gigs. I played with Meredith Brooks, who, you know, sang
Bitch.
remember that song? Yeah, Bitch.
We'll put another. I like a lot of her tracks, actually, more so than that one. But I'll put another
Right.
$1 in the jug for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
We're up to
Woo!
$3 for charity.
Sure, love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just other bands, you know, Michelle Shock, Air Supply, and then session work in between.
Oh yeah,
And,
I forgot about Air
yeah.
Supply. I love those stories in LA when you told me about all that.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
mom was
great.
in love with them.
They're great guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great guys. That was like one of my bigger last touring gigs as a side musician. I really, after that gig, I was like, you know what, I just want to focus mostly on my own stuff. And I took it to Europe, and I've been doing pretty well in Europe. It's a whole other market over there. So for the past 10 years, most of my touring has actually been in Europe. So I've been doing that. Some regional in certain areas of the U.S. I continue touring, and I started another project called the String Revolution, which is all instrumental, all acoustic, only guitars. It's 4 guitar players, and we kind of use our guitars in unique ways. We don't only strum, you know, we kind of bang on them. You would appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
You know, percussive
Absolutely.
type stuff.
And
you
we're
know,
going to
so-
actually spin some String Revolution here in just a little bit because you sent us
That's
some tracks. Yeah.
Yes. I've been focusing on that this past year because we put out a new record. We have a new single, a new arrangement of Rocket Man, inspired by the movie. And,
Super cool.
Yeah, so we're starting to tour a little bit, starting to get out there. So
Yeah.
between my solo project, that band, and some session work, as it is, it's funny. I'm actually recording some guitar for the woman who wrote "Bitch" with Meredith Brooks, Shelley Piken.
Yeah.
She's putting out her own record of her hits that she's written, and she's putting out her own versions. And so I've been playing guitar for her on that record. So that's pretty cool. And I'm just, you know, in between teaching and enjoying the California sun. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, because you're somewhere right there in Hollywood, right?
I'm
Or is it
in
Beverly
between-
Hills?
Yeah. You know what they call it? They call it Beverly Hills adjacent.
Oh, I love that Beverly Hills adjacent. I just remember when I went out there for the first time, I went to Rodeo just shopping on my own.
Right.
I walked into the store, and of course, I'm a country girl from like 2,600 people, you know, never seen stuff like that. And then I go in, and I love telling this story. And there was a pair of jeans there, and I was like, man, those look so cool. And I walk in, the price tag was like $20,000.
$20,000.
And I was like, I'm in the wrong place.
Well, yeah, I know.
So I went to the
Yeah,
vintage thrift stores instead.
So the trick here in LA, this is the trick, because I, of course, don't hang out at the Beverly Hills shops.
Right, yeah. Nor would I if I was out there.
The trick in LA is to live next door to a nice area. So, you know, like I'm literally 1 block from, my place is like right behind the the Beverly Hills line. So like there's one street that separates the LA zip code from the Beverly Hills zip code, and literally that one street, one side of the street, the Beverly Hills side of the street, is paved like super clean and soft, and
Yeah.
flat, and the LA side is a piece of shit with
Yeah.
cracks all over, literally on the same street.
I love that. I know. Well, I remember going to Beverly Hills and seeing that, and it was like not too far down the street is Skid Row.
Right,
So it's
right.
like the complete opposite ends of the
I know.
spectrum. Yeah.
I know. We're a big city, and
Yeah.
we've got all these little pockets. So I found a nice little niche out here, and I've been here a long time. And of course, I'm born and raised in LA, so it's my town.
Exactly. It is your town, man. And I'm glad you were out there because when I got to come out there, you kind of showed me the ropes around. And it was an honor to get to play with you and girlfriend. And ever
Likewise.
since.
Wasn't that fun? That
Oh
was
my
such
gosh.
a fun gig.
It was the coolest gig ever. And we actually talked to Vivi Rama, our bass player, yesterday. And I'm trying to get Julie Wolf on the show, of course. So, stay tuned.
We should tell your listeners. Basically, there was a musical that was being played at a very nice theater out here in Culver City, and the music director Julie Wolf put us all together, and we were the band on stage, and they wanted an all-girl band, so we got all rounded up, and that's how I met you.
Right, yeah. That was my first time in California, too, ever.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was such a cool experience. They flew me out, and then I lived right there off Washington Street near Venice Beach. So I could literally walk to Venice Beach every day, and they gave me a car.
Not a bad gig. Not a bad gig.
Not a bad gig. Not a bad first experience in L.A. as a musician either.
There you go.
And I remember, we were at the Kirk Douglas Theater there, so I was getting to park in his personal parking spot, which was pretty rad, off the side of the theater there. And, not only was it great shows and a great run, but we also, there were some cool people that showed up to watch the show that I got to meet.
That's
that was
right.
Awesome, yeah. Courtney Love was there. Yeah.
That's right.
Remember Bruce Valant showed up, and of course
I do.
Michelle Shocked for you. And is it Bonnie Hayes?
No. So I invited Michelle Shock. She came, but I'm also friends with the guitar player from the Bangles.
That's right.
That's who you met.
Debbie Peterson?
No, Vicky.
Vicky Peterson. Aren't they sisters? I always get that
They
confused.
are.
Yeah.
They
So
are
Vicky
sisters.
Peterson showed up from the Bangles, and watched the
Right.
show. And I also remember, I think it was Bonnie Hayes that showed up with Vicky Randall. And Bonnie is the main songwriting professor at Berklee School of Music, and she wrote Love Letter and a bunch of Bonnie Raitt's hits.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in fact, Melissa
did not
Farrick
know
actually
that.
works under her.
Oh,
Also,
wow.
if you know who Melissa Farrick is, she's big in the women's music
Yes,
scene.
of course. I've done a lot of tours with Melissa.
Oh, cool.
Well, a lot of opening spots for her. And
it's funny, I met her at a stage in Michigan, and somebody had sent me under the big stage to, go get beer. And I'll never forget it. The beer was Purple Haze, and they were like, yeah, go get me a Purple Haze out of the cooler. And I was like, well, I'll crawl under the stage while they're performing on top. And so I crawl out the other side, and I look up, and there stands Melissa Farrick, and she was like, hi, who are you? Because it was in a...
why are you crawling on the ground?
Right, with a cold beer in your hand, right? Yeah. It looked like I was trying to steal it, but I really wasn't.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's how I met her. How funny, right?
Yeah. She's cool. Yeah. I had a good time touring with her as well.
Yeah. Well, Janet, if people want to check in on your gigs, tell them where they can go.
Well, obviously, there's just our websites. That would be janetrobin.com. And my name is spelled JANETROBIN.
Mm-hmm.
And then for my other band, The String Revolution, it's just how it sounds, thestringrevolution.com. And there's tons of stuff on YouTube. So that's always a good way. You can hear stuff, you can see live videos. And we're all over Spotify. Actually, String Revolution is doing really well on Spotify. We're like 700,000 or 800,000 streams.
Wow, that's a feat in itself.
It is. We have a version of Billie Jean, an arrangement we did of that. And,
cool.
That's been just doing really well on Spotify.
Man, that's one of those songs that I've covered for years. It doesn't matter where you play it. That bass line just makes people dance. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
So I can't wait to hear your version of it. Super cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you the link to the video. Then you can kind of see how we do it.
Sure, I would love that.
Yes.
Well, Janet, keep it rocking. I'm so glad I met you along my journey. I love that you called into LRS102.com, The Walrus. You're in support of Jyneration Nation. We're a rock and roll station. You probably don't know this, artist. We're a rock and roll station that's been around since 1964. That,
oh my God.
when Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and Zeppelin were breaking, I mean, we were breaking those artists before.
Where are you located?
We're
What's the
located
city?
in Louisville, Kentucky, man.
Love it.
Yeah, streaming downtown.
I gotta get out there, man. I
Yeah.
gotta get out there.
Anytime you come, I got you here. Yeah, and you'd love it here. It's kind of like a little Seattle, a little Austin-ish. You know, it's very creative, and we're like the liberal blue circle and the dot crazy of red. You know, and yeah, we really are. And we have one of the top. I think we're 11th top in the LGBT population here.
Wow.
In the country. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, because
That
we're
is
like
crazy.
a hub. The cool thing about Louisville is we're about 6 to 8 hours from almost every major city on the East Coast. So Chicago is 6 hours. You can be to Memphis in 6. You can be to Nashville in 3.
Yeah,
you know,
so
all
you're,
these.
you're in a good area.
Yeah, we're a
for all of
hub basically for all the major cities on the East Coast.
Well, that's great. I really hope to make it out there. I've played in the South before, and you know, I love playing out there. You know, the thing about the South is that you guys really appreciate instrumentalists. You grow up on really good
On some bluegrass Appalachian stuff.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd love to make it out there. But yeah, thank you so much for thinking of me, and I really appreciate it. You know,
Absolutely. It's been an
a lot of
honor
years.
to have you on. I love your stories about Randy Rhoads and everything else. And you take care out there on the road. Our listeners, if they want to check in, they can do so by checking out, you know, Janet Robin online, the String Revolution, and we're going to spin some of your stuff here in a minute. So you take care out there in LA and hold it down for us.
Love it, girl.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Will
care,
do.
Janet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.